Great day, great day, great day. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Natasha L. Brown, moderator for Selflessly Selfish, healing evangelist, holistic advocate, transformational speaker, and author. And you are joining me for Lunchtime Love, which we do every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time. And today we're going to do the same thing we do each week. We have a topic, and if there's a topic you want to expand on or share about, let me know. You can inbox me through the group, or you can comment here on the post. Either way is fine. And ladies, as you come in, say hello. Let me know you're there. And answer the question, full circle moments. What is the connection? I've been studying Joseph, preparing for a message, and every time I read his story, it's always so interesting and encouraging as to what is going on in his life and why. And I'm sure he was thinking the same thing. And if we take each scenario out of context, it looks like, he just had a hard life. But if you start from the beginning and read his story in Genesis 37 and then 39 through actually 50, read it all the way through, you'll see how God put everything together and had everything work for his good, which is so encouraging because of the simple fact that what he went through was not just for him. And I say that a lot, especially when encouraging someone that may be going through something they don't think they can get through. We don't go through things just for us. Many things we go through, we learn lessons to encourage and strengthen us, to even help someone else. But it's usually because of what we've prayed for to get us to a place that is going to help someone along the way. And we don't always think about that. We're not always encouraged. I know I don't want to hear that when I'm going through, but it is encouraging because his dream actually manifested. And if everything that happened along the way did not happen, guess what? It would not have come to manifest the dream where his family had to bow down. Actually, countries and nations came and bowed down to him because of the simple fact of what was going on with the famine. And so the dream that he told his family was much bigger than what he was able to articulate at 17, right? So, and that's how our lives are. Many things that we're going through, it's greater than what you can even think of. If you can think of all of the little things, traumas, good days, bad, whatever you want to call it, everything that has happened in your life up to this moment, if you could really be honest, you can see the thread of God sewing everything together for you to be who you are now. And if you're not operating fully in your purpose, then what will begin to take place is definitely something bigger than what you can ever imagine or what we can comprehend. Because it says exceeding and abundantly above all that we can ask. And God uses the power within us to make those things come to pass, right? So it's always exciting to watch God move in our lives. Even those things that we don't think is working for our good, it actually is working for our good. So that is one of the scriptures I want to deal with, Romans 8:28. And I want to read it from the Amplified and also the NIV. The Amplified says, and we know with great confidence that God, who is deeply concerned about us, causes all things to work together as a plan, not just haphazardly, as a plan for good for those who love God, to those who are called according to his plan and purpose. And we all have a purpose. We've all been called to do great things. Whether we've listened and we are heeding that call or not is going to be up to us. So it makes a big difference as to what is going on in our lives. The NIV version says Romans 8:28, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. So everything works together for our good. Even when it doesn't feel like it, even when it doesn't look like it, it's working for our good. Because in Psalms 23 and 1, and we're just going to do 1, God has already said that we want for no thing if we allow him to be our shepherd. So if you're just professing that you're a Christian and you're not truly a Christian or a believer or a knower or someone who is committed to the will and purpose of God, then it does make a difference. But when you are called and you are operating in what God has called you to do, then you want for no thing. And sometimes we hinder because we try to make things work on our own. But if we could just get out the way and allow God to move us in the direction we need to go and allow God to do with us what he designed us to do and be here on earth, we represent him, but are we representing him well? So those full circle moments. And my bestie, I think she's on now, brought up a situation, some things that have happened. I don't even think it's been a year. Maybe it's been a year, but things that have happened over the past year have set her up for some things that she's going through right now. And she made mention of that. And I had not even thought about it. But, just little things, when you can freely be yourself and share and pour into and minister to people, things that we learn. And many times I've noticed that, it feels like it's, nonsense when you pick it up because you don't know how it's going to relate to something else. But once you can realize that what you've learned previously and you encounter someone and then you're able to share that information, it makes a big difference, right? Because that person needed that information. And when you gathered the information or when you came across the information, because some things I've learned and I'm like, well, Lord, why are we encountering this? Because this is not something that I'll ever use. But then you meet someone that actually needs the information. So don't take anything for granted, point blank. Those things that we think mean nothing, it may not mean anything to you now, but it's going to mean something to someone else later. Or you may get into a situation where you actually need that information that you've gotten. And it says, work together as a plan for good. So everything God has for us is for our good. Everything God is doing and allowing to take place, and it's about him allowing. The book of Job tells us that God is, there's nothing that can take place without God's permission. Even if we make a mistake, God already knew. God knows the beginning from the end. And, there's no separating. He knows when we're going to fully obey. He knows when we're going to make it our own and try and obey part of the way or look like we're obeying to others. But God knows what he told us to do specifically. All of that is working together for our good. So that full circle moment, it could mean many different things, but in this context, for the purpose of today's Lunchtime Love, it is meaning how every small thing, every moment of our lives comes full circle to bring about the manifestation or the glory of God, so that we can give him credit for working everything out. Because some situations that work for on our behalf, many of us would not even get there if God had not orchestrated things to take place. Because we think we know better. We're just going to help God along with what we've been praying for. And that's not how it works, which is so amazing to me. But when we are able to fully allow God to work in us, to work through us, and everything that is around us is working in accordance with God's plan for our good, then it brings about a different manifestation. It brings about a different energy. It gives us a different confidence to know that God in us is standing up. He's supporting us. He has us covered on every side, and that we are not alone. Those different reminders that he gives us. Even when a stranger comes up and encourages you on something that maybe you were struggling with. And that has happened to me on a number of occasions. And, I could cry at commercials. So, I want to boohoo, especially if we're somewhere and somebody just walks up and starts a conversation. It is always amazing to me how God will speak to us. And sometimes we are so busy that we don't hear what he's saying, but if it's a concern, he's going to give that reminder. He's going to bring about that word from somewhere or someone. We'll come across something through social media, maybe a magazine cover if you're out, the newspaper, whatever we'll be paying attention to. God knows how to get our attention. So what are some full circle moments? And I gave you some using Joseph's example. Even with what I'm doing now, this was something that I started on a different format. I was doing it on Mondays, every Monday evening, which I did it on I think I did it on my personal page. And I was also doing the wellness piece on my wellness page here on Facebook. But then, those things were to build up to what it is that I need to be doing offline, right? So reminding me of what I started as far as the ministry is concerned in 2012, I put that ministry on hold to help another ministry. And when it was time for me to go, God reminded me. And God never leaves us. If you're in a ministry and you've had to transition from one ministry to the other, I know with me, I'm never without a pastor. I'm never without a covering. I'm never without an overseer. Even when I think that I'm getting ready to transition and I don't know where I need to go next, God always reminds me. And I've been reconnected with and he wasn't even my pastor at the time, but was more of a holistic mentor for me because I was just starting out in holistic health. But now we've I've reconnected with the WOMAX. And what is amazing to me, and all of this took place last year. Now that has been a year. I know that definitely. But what took place to get me back to that connection was so amazing. And God already knew what was going to take place. And even the year before, when things began to reveal themselves that I was needing to transition, I was needing to actually be obedient and operate in my ministry, God, those little things, I can go back to 2019 and look over some things that I encountered and things that began to happen. And they felt like emotional, I'm not going to say sabotage because it wasn't something that I did intentionally, but maybe an emotional sniper had taken place, and I was injured and I could not get to the spiritual hospital. Oh, this is a metaphor, so don't email me asking me if I'm okay. I am okay. It is a metaphor. So spiritually, those things were happening, but those things were to sever ties, to get me out of particular ruts that I did not even realize I was in, to get me to transition smoothly, and you don't ever want to go from one place to the other in a car with 4 flat tires. You're not going to go far, or even 3 tires and you have 1 flat, and I think I can make it to the gas station because I know somebody there will be able to help me change my tire. But in the process, you're tearing that rim up, right? They won't have anything to put a tire on. So we have to be mindful of where we are right now, especially if it's in a painful place. What is it that we're supposed to be learning at this particular time? And then once we get out of that place and we get into a better place, if we look back, and many times we don't want to look back, many people will tell you not to look back, but to watch God put everything together, to have a plan just for me, make it personal. I'm God's favorite. When I started ministering, that the energy in the room would always shift because people would get for whatever reason, get upset. And you can feel that energy. So I had to start having people to affirm, I am God's favorite. God would not have put us here if we were not his favorite. But until you realize that, until you receive that, until you walk in that, it is going to agitate you if someone else is saying that. When I first came back to Augusta, that's how I introduced myself, because people thought I was my younger sister. And they would always say, hi. And, you could tell when people are not sure who you are. But I would always say, oh, no, I'm not Trina. I'm the favorite. I'm not the youngest. And the first couple of times I said that, I was with my mother and she didn't know how to take it, neither the person that I was talking to. And that thing is so funny to me even to today. But knowing that you are God's favorite, you can insert that anywhere you want to, right? Especially if it's a form of encouragement to you. And reminding people that they are God's favorite. You can remind yourself, just look at the things that God did in the past 24 hours. You don't even have to worry about today, no matter what time you're watching this. The past 24 hours, what has God kept you from? Some things you'll never know. And some things you do. You know that that almost accident. You almost did this and it wasn't going to be for your good, or whatever decision you were going to make, but God spoke to you and you heard him and you went with what he said. You can look over all those things. You can just take the past 24 hours. You don't even have to look back over your entire life or look back over the year that we collectively had, which was, if you watch the news continuously, you were constantly being threatened by your life. But that was more mental sabotage than anything. They were programming you to make you think that you were going to get sick. And then once you got sick, you would have to go to the hospital, which you really would be sick then. But if you were taking care of yourself, this temple that God is housed in, if you were doing what you were supposed to be doing even before 2020, March of 2020, then when all of this came out, just like flu season, you don't have to participate in that. Every year they say the same thing. The flu commercials come on. If you have insurance, you supposedly get the flu shot for free, right? Quote unquote. But if you pay your insurance, you're not getting it for free. You've paid for it. So some things that the programming of the mass media, we don't even think about, we just go with. Especially if you're listening to it in the background, you are programming your subconscious for something that is not beneficial to you. So what has God already told you? What has God put in you? What is Abba said? Your daddy has told you something. Are you going to follow those directions? If we follow directions of our Father, we will benefit from those things. Because the Father always knows better, right? The Father has already experienced life. He's probably gone through the situation you're going through now, natural and spiritual. Our spiritual Father is looking higher than we'd ever be able to go. So that aerial view gives a different outlook. And if you have a good pastor, they look from a different vantage point as well. So they can assist you in certain situations. So the full circle moment, when I was looking over that and studying it with Joseph, made me think about all of the things that we have gone through. And we can just take the past year, but how everything is working together. Many people that may have been struggling before March 2020 got into the right investments or jumped on the bandwagon. Everyone started selling masks after a while. But a lot of those things made people big money. Even though they're trying to say the economy is not in a good place, that's not true. Pay attention to what's being built in your area. You can drive outside of your area and see things that are being built. Construction is still going on. The economy is not bad as they're trying to say. Even in what was called the Great Depression in the 20s, many of your those multi-million-dollar families were produced during those times. So there's always something to gain in any situation, but are we willing to do what needs to be done to see and to take that opportunity and make it work to glorify God, right? So as you watch this, whether in the replay or live, what's the connection for your full circle moments? And that may be something you need to take time and journal out to see how everything worked for you, especially if you're not where you want to be and you think it's not necessarily working for your good, then definitely sit down, write out all of that information, and find out what the connection is. There's something going on outside we're going to need to check on. So as and I was already coming to it, Nia, we got a full circle moment going on outside, I think. But just keep in mind Psalms 23:1, right? Also Romans 8:28 were our scriptures for today. And look over your life. It's very encouraging when you can see that what looked like each individual situation may not have been working for your good. God already had a plan, knew what was happening, knew what was going on, and worked for your good. Everything is for your benefit. So, ladies, we are here every Tuesday at noon for Lunchtime Love, every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Speak Up, but it's our time of prayer and encouragement. And anytime that you have a prayer request, you can post it. We've even added the button on all of the posts, so you can post it or inbox me so that you can get what you need. And I pray that you got something out of this. And even as you look over your life, the last 24 hours, the last year, however far back you go, that you can see that God is always working on your behalf, always working for your good. So if we can continue to acknowledge those things daily, everything will work to give him glory. So as always, remember that I love you, that self-love, self-compassion, and knowing God are your superpowers. Have a beautiful, beautiful week. Thank you.